for us.
Have you?
Yeah. American woman, stay away from me. American woman,
Really?
mama, let me be. Now we can use the Lenny Kravitz one or we can use the Guess Who one, but there's a lot of covers for that. I think
Wait,
it's pretty apropos right about now.
you're talking about because of it being, because of, well, we'll get on to those later in the show anyway, but because of it trying to be pro-Canadian and anti-American, eh?
Yeah, I don't want to be anti-American people. I just want to be anti-Trump.
Well, if you're talking about American woman, stay away from me, then you're being anti-American people because he's not a woman.
He is. He's a trans. He's trans, but don't want to admit it.
You mean woman turned man?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Now I've heard it all. Now we've heard the real truth here on Talking Niagara this morning. It is Monday, February 3rd, 2025. Okay. So
the truth of it is that Trump is a woman that transitioned into a man, so it's okay to sing the song "American Woman, Get Away from Me."
Okay, all right. And I wonder whether Trump has got something to do with Pride Niagara canceling Pride in the Park.
Yeah. Oh, I got an observation, and I wonder if anyone out there has seen this. Do you think, like, looking at Trump smiling and looking at Doug Ford smiling, do you think, to me, Doug Ford looks like Donald Trump's chubby little brother? What do you think? Do you think they could be related?
Well, the interesting thing is that, he's wearing a MAGA hat kind of thing, right? He's wearing a blue MAGA hat.
Canada's not for sale thing.
Yeah. It's a hat we can get behind anyway. Yeah. I think there's a family similarity there.
Yeah, definitely.
All right. So Pride Niagara has cancelled Pride in the Park, basically saying it's been unsuccessfully trying to form a joint venture with the city of St. Catharines to run the festival, but that they've not been able to make that happen.
Well, Paul Lemire had a good point on one of his shows when he talked about this. He says, why do you keep doing this? Why do you need it? You've already done the fight. You've already got recognition. Why do you need to keep doing this? And I kind of echo that. What?
It's a flag waving day. Yeah, that's really what it is.
Yeah.
Flag waving, get out and enjoy yourself. Why it has to be in Montebello Park, I don't know, but still.
And why does it have to be gay pride? Like, why not just set it up? But the problem is money. Of course, it's always money. Yeah. And one of the times they had this in the park, of course, there was a few jerks. And
I can't stand jerks.
Hang on. They had really bad jerky type people there. So they felt it necessary to put up a fence for safety.
Yeah.
Which elevated the cost.
Putting up a fence is actually, it's like putting up a fence is wrong. To my mind, the fence divides them and us, whichever group you're talking about, right? It's not like it's a pay per entry event. Like, do you remember the bands that they had at Montebello Park when they were doing the, people who were born local? Because that was a paid event.
Oh, I mean, like local talented bands, yeah.
Yeah. Well, that was a paid event, right? Although, irony is you could stand on the corner of Montebello Park, outside the circle and hear it just as well as anybody else. And hey, it would be great to be in those houses on Montebello Park, right?
Well, here the idea is, well, why doesn't Pride or the two LGBTQ plus 5.5 7 Z whatever it is. I don't want to make fun of it, but that's
No,
just getting longer and longer. The the whole point of if they charge, the problem here could be solved if they have a cover charge. They want it to be free, so if they have a cover charge, but the fact is, I don't think they have confidence in people coming and paying for it. They
yeah,
might come through curiosity and come if it's free.
yeah,
And of course, the city has said, well, in order for this to be completely safe, because there's such idiots out there that and violence against this group of people, that they're going to have to put up a fence. So then you need a security zone, which and plus the fact that I believe the LGBTQ message has already got out there. My God, schools wave their flags, everything, which I disagree with. But what kind of problem do you have with gay people? What kind of problem do you have with trans? I don't have a whole lot of problem. I kind of feel sorry for
no
trans.
problem at all. No problem at all. I
Yeah.
have no, it's like I would like to see an event like this just go on, be open to all, and it's just an expression of. I take it as an expression of love, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. Well, basically, what I think is they should shorten their name, because this is the abridged version, 2SLGBTQ1 plus.
Yeah.
Yeah. So basically, just put the rainbow people or something, and they keep changing their flag. So there's a lot of confusion around it. But I mean, the city provided $5,000 in 2023 and $6,000 in 2024. But and now it had to spend $15,000 for fencing and security at the park. You see, the price tag's getting bigger and bigger.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
The necessity of the celebration is less and less. There used to be a necessity for the celebration because it made people aware of the trans community. We are not the boogie persons that you see. We are not the twisted, perverted folks that are portrayed.
No,
So that was probably a pretty good thing. And like Paul said in this show, well, the battle's over. Basically, you got what you wanted. Why does the city have to come up with money for that? And I say, what too? Why does the city have to come up? The city could team up with them, but it looks very obvious that they want the city to come up with more and more money. And of course, money is one of those things that sort of transitions away from intent.
Okay.
Basically.
But again, a couple of days ago, St. Catherine's made a statement that it didn't cancel Pride in the Park, and nor is it restricting the annual event in any way.
No, it's just that this is the Pride's way of saying we want more money. We want more money.
But again, how does the $15,000 price tag get paid for? And that's a fair question. And and especially with today's today's budgetary constraints that we have.
Well, that's the whole thing.
Yeah.
Everybody's under the pinch, but
and
if you read between the lines here, Pride wants more money.
I suppose there's an element of that, but I'm going to ask another question here. Is this actually a St. Catherine's event, or is it a regional event? I suspect it's more a regional event than a St. Catherine's one.
No, it's St. Catherine's.
I know it's in St. Catherine's.
No, St. Catherine's was paying the tab.
Yeah, I know, but the attendees are from the whole of Niagara region, Niagara Pride overall.
Well, I see what you're getting. They want maybe the region to come up with some.
Maybe the region should be making a donation. And again, I'm not suggesting that we pay lots and lots of money out of the regional coffers. I'm suggesting we do have to think about budgets and be conscious of money. But again, it is a regional event, not just purely a St. Catherine's people. There'll be people from
Yeah, well, the
Niagara,
pride,
Fort
pride
Erie,
could go. Pride could go to make their case to the region.
yeah.
But let's face it, at this particular time, when every government is in the red,
Oh, I
and
know.
every government, look at the squabbles we had over our last budget.
Yep.
They're right down to pennies sometimes. So, really, when another group comes forward and says it's really important that you give us money and help us with money. Now, like when the city's flush with coins, sure. Here, I'll cut you a check. But they're under scrutiny everywhere now, and they already have. They have. They didn't cancel it themselves, and they will put up some money. But without the kind of resources the Pride wants, then this can't go ahead.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
the way I see it is that you have to, St. Catherine's, whoever has to push up the money, and I don't think. I think if you want to charge for it, you can. I think that's probably your only option. But they didn't even take that option. They said, well, we're not going to do it. In other words, St. Catherine says, go ahead and do it, no problem. And if you want to pay for it, you're going to have to charge money for it. But they don't want to have to do that work. If they really thought that the festival was important enough, that's what they would do.
Yeah. Yeah.
I have a feeling that just about, not just Pride, but just about every community that wants to demonstrate and put their face out there always turns to the government or the municipality and says, this is what you got to do in order to recognize us. Well, why don't you do it? Give me the money to do this recognition thing. And the city's probably just turned around and says, well, why don't you charge like everybody else charges?
Yeah. It's really awkward come at the current time. Okay, so a few comments we've got. Okay, good morning. Could you imagine a white heterosexual parade? Yeah. Not going to happen. It'd have to have some other thing. Good morning, hello, Canada.
It has to. You can have it, but you have to have the female heterosexual parade right before it. Otherwise, the men won't get in line and march.
Oh, whoa!
They'll have to have something to follow. Oh, that's why I'm here, to catch up to those over there.
Right. Pride and transgender refer to different concepts, though they are related within. Yeah, and that's why I don't think they should be in that LGBTQ plus community, Betty. Yeah, good morning, Betty. All right.
The LGB, there's an outfit, LGB is very much against the being included among the transgender and the queer groups. They feel quite a few of them feel that they aren't in there because gay women like other women. They don't like trans. They don't like this. A lot of the organizations were trying to force lesbians into dating trans women, that kind of things. They don't like trans women. They like just ordinary women, same as men. And bisexuals, the B part of that, like one sometimes like men, sometimes like women. So
I can understand
that group of people who have no problem with their gender don't really feel comfortable all the time mixed with the others.
Yeah, exactly. All right. And they're not, and they're sure not the same. Yeah. Okay. All right. I'm sorry how this is. I feel that subject a circus in town has tarnished the new ones. Okay. Yeah, we got that. All right, sell hats and T-shirts and have your people support each other. That's one approach. Mike. Right? They want to be a puppy or other. NWO is nuts. I don't know what NWO is. Right? And I'm sorry, but me being on a fixed income and both city and regional property tax is far more important, and city and regional property tax is far important to me. Yeah, and exactly at the moment, that's a big problem, Karen. Right? Is actually living with a budget.
I got an idea for a hat. All right, you ready? Get a red hat and make 2SLGBTQ1 plus great again.
Love it. I'm buying that hat tomorrow. Yeah. Okay, so moving on. This gentleman's name is Donald Zeraldo. Okay, and he's co-founder of Inniskillin Winery, and he wants to try and convince the federal government to create a national Vintners Quality Alliance standard. So basically, if you get a VQA mark on your wine, it's being seen as a good quality wine.
I think this is very important, because what we do have is the VQA, which tells everybody that wine has exclusively Ontario grapes in it.
Yeah.
Our wine industry blends grapes. We could blend our juice with other juices. You can get only 25% of Ontario wine in a bottle, and the other is mixed with Argentinian wine. And still
Cuban.
Call it an Ontario bottle of wine.
Not Cuban. But, I mean. And Chilean wine.
Yeah. But what he's saying here, but the VQA, when you go in and you look for, and which I do, because I rarely buy wine because I don't understand it that well, but I do buy wine. I go look for VQA. That tells me that the grapes in that bottle of wine were growing in Ontario. What Zeraldo wants to do is have the same sort of standard across across Canada. And he points out that in BC, when they had a failure in their crops one year, they could not use Ontario juice to make up for their shortfall, whereas at the same time, Ontario had a surplus. Now, if you had a standard right across the country, that means that they could have taken the juice from Ontario because it met their standards, and they could then use it in their own wines. And that's what he's talking about. He's also talking about the ridiculous tariffs we have and border restrictions we have of trade between province and province.
Yeah.
This has come up glaringly right now, particularly when we're fighting Donnie Bonespurs, the American woman, basically. Stay away from me. He is trying to punish Canada, but he's going to have an easy go of it, because what he's going to do is pick apart region by region, preferring one against the other and so on, which is going to break us up. And when we already have trade barriers between our provinces, which isn't being addressed, is another one of those dumb things that the federal government had a chance to deal with this, but it didn't. That's just one more thing they felt that wasn't important. But now we find that's going to be very important, and the dropping of trade barriers across the provinces are going to be more and more important. You won't find those barriers between the states, basically.
It doesn't make any sense at all that I can't, that I would have a limitation on exporting to Quebec or Regina. It doesn't make any sense at all that I would have a limitation on that.
Well, it does. For instance, you can go to Quebec, buy cheaper beer, come over to Ontario and put it in your bar.
That's fine. Good for you. Good for you. I got no problem with that.
Well, Ontario government does. And then the same thing if you take it the other way around, because there's taxes, you would try to protect your own breweries and distribution centers in and around that. So there's all kinds of petty little details that all add up. But I think we can get over that if we get
Yeah.
together.
I
Right
think
now, we're in for a very, very long fight. Um, you know, Unreasonable at the top, but like we're going to be punished for being Canadians, basically. But so anyway, what he is saying here is if we have a standard, and this could go for other industries too, but he's been fighting for a standard, and it's come close. I think back in 2006 or somewhere around there, that Canada can be sent. So the problem here is we need a standard so that if somebody in Nova Scotia has a surplus of juice and BC has had a bad crop that year, that BC can import that juice and know that it is of the same quality that is required.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
that they could put like Vintners Quality Alliance of Canada, VQAC, basically on it. And everybody in Canada will know that the grapes that were grown for that wine came from Canada and had to meet a certain level of
Yeah.
a certain standard, a very high standard.
Yeah.
So I think it's a very good idea.
It's
But you're just going
equality.
to run into
Yeah.
politicians that, you know, they don't understand it. They will do now, though. Basically, it'll be top of mind.
Yeah. It's a good idea. It's a good idea. Always been a good idea. So and I support it. Okay. So a couple of comments on that one. Okay, provincial tariffs should be abolished to help each other right now. Absolutely. Right.
Exactly.
Same with steel, aluminium, and food. We should be supplying ourselves right now. Yeah.
Yeah, we just need the industry for it. We don't have the industry. We're doing what we always do is we supply other people with the raw materials for that and then buy them back after they're refined.
Yeah. My son-in-law is a truck driver. Took our potatoes to a company. They sent it to Idaho. Says it was there. It wasn't.
Said it was Idaho potatoes.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. I don't know. That's a problem anyway, right? That's problematic anyway.
Yeah. So that's
Yeah. That's what it was. He said it was Idaho potatoes. Yeah. That's problematic. You can't lie about those kind of things.
Yeah. So the idea now, of course, the inter-province trade has to be top of mind, but we always go the easy route, don't we? Like ever since I've been politically aware in the earliest part, like when I was about 13 or 14 years old, I've heard always the fact that we are too heavily dependent on trade with the United States. But it's even worse than that. We are dependent on regional trade. The East Coasters are dependent on trade with Maine. Quebec is dependent on trade down through the eastern seaboard. Ontario the same to the Midwest. The western provinces are in trade with the states below them, and so is BC. We don't have interprovincial trade. We have less barriers between the states and us than we have between provinces in some cases. Damn ridiculous.
Yeah, absolutely is ridiculous. Yeah, absolutely. And the whole point about what he's saying there is, he's talking about a standard for VQA, and he's right. But it's there shouldn't be any tariffs going across the borders in Canada.
Provincial borders, yeah.
Yeah, provincial borders. That's wrong. Shouldn't be any cost to doing that, right? Right.
There was a reason for everything. So what they have to do is reduce the need for that. And of course, the interprovincial barriers were there for a reason. And unfortunately, they haven't really been addressed that well. And like every Canadian government and every Canadian business since I've been a kid, like they always say that we every time we get into trouble with the United States, they say, "Oh, we really got to expand our trade partners. We really got to stop being dependent on the U.S." But they never do. And now we're in a situation again where we're going to get beat up pretty bad by these tariffs, because we didn't heed the call of generations of economists that we have to diversify our economy and make it less dependent on the United States. Look what happened to Germany when Russia got into the war. They're completely dependent on Russian gas. Being completely dependent on one source is bad. The United States is not in the trouble we're in with this tariff war. They're going to feel the pain, but nowhere near to us, because they have interstate trade and they have more versatile economy. And that's because they planned it a lot better than we did. We went the easy route. We always take the easy route. There's no imagination.
Well, in fact, was one of the things that with this whole discussion about this is, about where we go from here. There's this whole question about tariffs, etc., etc. I think that one of the things that we've seen, Trudeau has this weekend responded to the tariff question. I think he did a poor job responding.
How so?
Well, it's like we need to buy more. We need to buy more made in Canada. Fine, but again, what are you going to do to make that happen, right? And there's a number of things like LCBO are now saying they're taking American products off the shelf. Does that necessarily resolve the issue? No, I don't think it does.
Of course it isn't, but it's part of the fight back plan. Look, Trudeau came out and he didn't just say buy Canadian. I think he had a pretty good pronouncement. Nothing to write home about, but pretty basic.
Yeah.
Look, this is an unjust tariff war that these are unjust tariffs that the United States are placing on us. He's saying that less than 1% of the fentanyl in the United States comes from Canada. Less than 1% of the migrants come from Canada into the United States. What he didn't say, but should have, is that's a cross-border trade. We get migrants from them; they get migrants from us. We get drugs from them. They get drugs from us.
100 times for every pound of drugs going south across the border, there's 100 pounds of drugs coming north across the border.
There's probably more coming north than south. And he zeroes in on fentanyl, but of course he doesn't talk about cocaine, because the cocaine has to go through the United States to come to Canada. He doesn't talk about the heroin or other things that have to come across the United States and get into Canada. He talks about fentanyl because we have a small fentanyl leak coming mostly from Vancouver.
And most of our problem areas are actually the fact that we've had too much of an open border policy. And I think that's where we've had, to some extent, some undesirables coming into Canada.
To quite a bit of extent. Now, they are not wrong when they say that Canada's immigration system is poor and that it allows undesirables easily to get into the country. That's all true. And that Canada hasn't protected their border and allowed as many migrants that want to go the other way. But let me remind you that what happened at Roxham Road. Did you see any border people in the United States stopping the refugees from going through Roxham Road into Quebec? Not a one.
Yeah.
Not one. So where was the Border Patrol protecting us? Governor Hochul from the New York has said that she's putting more money into protecting our border. But is she protecting it from people coming from the United States into Canada, or just from them coming from Canada into the United States? If she said both, that's it. Well, yeah. So these things could all be done without the heavy hand of tariffs, particularly when the issue is very small. And we have to remind ourselves that who was the creator of the new NAFTA deal that we had, the USMCA? That was
Yeah.
Trump. What he is saying that the trade imbalance we were taken advantage of, but his team was the one that negotiated it. So
Yeah.
what he's saying is my team got flim-flammed, and I'm mad about it. Though what never is being said by the Trump administration is the trade imbalance is for oil only. If you take all the goods, take oil out of it, the United States has a trade surplus with Canada in all things. The United States cannot produce enough oil for its own needs, so it buys a lot of that from Canada, then makes a whole lot of money on the refining of that, which super offsets the amount of money they paid for it. None of these things come up. That's why Trump backed down on his tariff on oil. He knew that that would get him in trouble, but he still wants to, but he can't look like a weakling, so he's going to throw a 10% instead of a 25% tariff on that. And he has said in text that his real desire is to annex Canada. And his buddy Howard Lutnick has the same idea. How to put a lot of economic strain on Canada to force them into a union with the United States.
Yeah. Not sure we want that.
We definitely don't want that. I don't want that gun culture up here. American woman, stay away from me.
You and your American woman. Okay, so moving on. No, this one. So Gwen Dyer wrote an article about why does Trump want Greenland?
Yeah, it goes back a ways, so I haven't read it for a while. But yeah, basically, or is this the recent one I put up here?
What's the recent one you put up? Yeah.
Where is it? Oh, Trump's ludicrous Greenland threats cause anxiety. That one?
Yeah.
Yeah. This is very scary because Greenland, of course, is an autonomous part of Denmark. And one day Greenland hopes to get its total independence. Like Greenland can't survive as a totally independent country because it doesn't have the means to provide for its 60,000 residents.
It's not got a big enough population, and it isn't the type of place that's going to import a lot of immigrants.
Yeah. Now, Trump says it's a strategic location and they need it. But right now, it's not a strategic location. It has the potential of becoming a strategic location. I think what Trump failed in getting it in 2016, so he's angry about that, and he wants it now. But he doesn't have a really good reason for wanting it. They already have a treaty with the United States that dates back to 1940 in the war era, I think, but in the 40s anyway, and that the United States can put troops and military facilities there. That the Greenland made a deal with the United States that the United States will help protect Greenland.
Yeah.
Yeah. So okay.
Well, and Denmark
at the very top of the island, they have a base. At one time, they had a much more military base there, but now it's more science. And my friend Jim Lever went there 8 times up there to study ice. So
the other thing about this is that Denmark has made a big thing about being a staunch ally of the United States, proud of it, etc., and that that whilst semi-autonomous, whilst being an autonomous zone within Denmark, that Greenland is Danish territory.
Now, Trump said that unlike with Canada, he's trying to put economic pressure on Canada so that they can annex Canada. Canadians don't want to be Americans, so what you're going to do is force them into it by impoverishing the country. That's basically what he wants to do. He said that his intent is eventually to annex Canada. He won't do it militarily, but what he will do it is economically. What happened to the leader of the free world? The leader of the free world is supposed to, we make the United States the free leader of the free world to defend our democratic rights in the Western Hemisphere. He doesn't like that. He doesn't want the democratic rights. Canada does not want to become part of the United States. So how does he think he's going to do it? He's going to force us to be there. You're gonna become American citizens because we're going to starve you out and make you, you won't have any choice. That's a real Democrat, isn't it? And as far as Greenland is concerned, he hasn't ruled out using force to force an autonomous region of Denmark into being part of the United States. When they polled the people of Greenland, 85% of them said they did not want to be American or did not want the island to become part of the United States.
Yeah.
So he's an imperialist conqueror, and that's what he wants to do. And what he wants to do is pick on the weakest ones, the ones that he can beat up. He's
Well, I
not
think
facing off against China, which he should be doing. He should be preparing and getting alliances all ready for China.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because that
China and Russia
confrontation is coming.
Yeah,
But
China and Russia is
Yeah.
what they should be going up against. China and Russia.
And what bothers me the most about here too, particularly with Canada, what problems do Canada have? What are our economic problems? We have the problem with China, we have a problem with illegals, and we have a problem with drugs. What does the United States have? A problem with China, illegals, and drugs.
Yeah.
We have the same problems, but he's going to punish us. And basically what he wants to do is make it look as if there's going to be no taxes on the Americans or less taxes. What he's doing is he's going to tax the American people by the tariff, because tariffs, of course, are paid by the person that imports the goods. So Walmart importing a pile of Chinese stuff has then to pay the tariff on it to the government and then take the amount of money it paid for the tariff and put it on the goods that it sells. So it is a tax. It's basically what it is. It's a tax on the American people.
Yeah. Yeah, and for whatever reason, they don't seem to understand that. But again, I think strategically, Trump. Well, the other thing which has gotten lost in the last couple of weeks that he brought up in his campaign is he wants American control over the Panama Canal.
That one I can understand a little bit more, because there's a Hong Kong outfit that got the contract for the Port Authority on the north and south part of the canal.
Yeah.
But they got that job back before China took Hong Kong.
Yeah.
So they were a British part of the British Empire at that particular time. Now, when Britain turned over Hong Kong to China, now of course China's got its tendrils into that company, because China has its claws into everything. So if you're a Chinese company, you cannot resist the CCP. They'll get into everything. So that, I think, is a legitimate problem. He's overstated, of course. Nobody charges the U.S. any more than anyone else. That kind of thing.
Yeah, but to apply only a 10% tariff to China, but 25% to Canada and Mexico is dumb.
We're talking about Panama.
Sorry, yeah. Panama. Well, Panama is another question. Yeah.
So I can understand that is a vital trade link.
But again,
right
I think also the other thing about Panama is he's wanting to control everything from Panama, the whole of North America.
Well, I can understand why the Panama Canal is vital to the economic and military interest of the United States.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And to have a Hong Kong company running the port from top to bottom, from both ports, could be insidious. Like I said, the CPP has their hands into everything. So no company can run independent without the CCP doing whatever they want, basically. But so there is some measure of problems there. I could sort of understand where he's coming from there. But what he wants to do is own it, control it, and basically, it was a good thing that they did turn it over to the Panamanians, because the Panamanians make a lot of money over there. That's a good source of income for the country. What the Americans don't understand too is the amount of drought that's happened that has made the Panama Canal less able to permit as many ships from plying through the Panama. And Trump is taking this as they're resisting American ships going through. He doesn't consider the widening of the Panama Canal that the Panamanians have done. So he's exaggerating everything, making it look like, boiling it down to bad guy, good guy. The insidious Chinese are controlling the Panama Canal. I think that they can absolutely come to some sort of an agreement with the Panama Canal, and I don't know. It is vital to U.S. military and economic interests.
Well, yes, but also I'm actually thinking that, does that mean that realistically he's looking at a picture which is the whole of North America, including Greenland, becomes now under U.S. control?
Well, yeah. What they really want to do is, with Greenland, the argument's made, if they take Greenland, then they have a pincer on Canada. They have Alaska and they have Greenland, and then they just can push Canada.
Yeah, but when I said remember, I said everything between the Panama Canal and Greenland, everything. That includes Mexico, Guatemala, and other places, Americanizing those countries.
Yeah, so I don't know really what his problem is. Here we've been talking about Greenland, of course, and of course NATO. Now, another is that NATO, realizing its biggest member is a shameless aggressor, expels the United. What Gwynn Dyer has done is he's taken a couple of different scenarios that the U.S. is actually expelled from NATO, or other possibilities. The third likely and most likely possibility is that all other NATO countries privately deplore Americans' actions, but publicly pretend that has all been an unfortunate misunderstanding and the thing can happen again. Remember, if he invades Greenland, that's against international law.
Yeah.
That's like Russia invading Ukraine. It's against international law.
Again, there is press in Europe saying that Europe needs to stand up for Greenland.
And yes, it does, but you're not at the current place. Anyone in the United States, politician in the United States, that thinks that Trump is heavy-handed with his military action, military threats to Greenland, it's obviously against international law. Right now, everybody is rah-rah-rahing Trump, and the idea of what is right and wrong isn't really coming up too well. And remember, Trump has surrounded himself with yes men. Not one of them has a mind of its own.
Yeah. And that's a problem that we get into there. And
now what's happened is Prime Minister Mette Frederiksen of Denmark had a 45-minute call with Trump. I guess he was pretty much frothing at the mouth from what I hear. Now, of course, that's probably an overstatement, but he was yelling and screaming that he wanted Greenland. That's all there is to it. Give me Greenland. You better give me Greenland. You know what? And another thing that bothers me greatly, now we'll have to go over to the Middle East for this one. He said absolutely that Jordan and Egypt are going to take in the Palestinians of Gaza. He wants to ethnically cleanse the Gaza Strip and force those people into Jordan and Egypt. And when asked that, well, the Egyptians don't want that, and the Jordanians want that,
don't want it. Yeah.
he says they'll take them. They will take them. He said so. He's really much in the control of the Israelis there, which I really didn't anticipate him being such a puppet of Israeli policy, but I should have known better. And
why didn't you? Just because he didn't say anything in the election didn't mean to say he wasn't going to bow down come after the election.
Well, because it's such a drastic move, and it is so inhumane. And I didn't even think Donald Trump could be that inhumane.
No. Well, okay. I think we can kind of leave that subject right at that point.
Yeah, basically. And anyway, so the U.S. says it's going to do what Putin does. Like the United States, the rest of the world says what Putin did when they invaded Ukraine was against international law, and Putin should be gone to The Hague and arrested for war crimes, etc. We're going to do that with Trump. He's got to go to The Hague for invading a country they should have had. The problem with, like I said before, the problem with Trump is he's surrounded by yes men who will not say anything against it. When the recent one of the recent appointees for his cabinet was asked, "Do you believe that the Biden won the election?" And the guy said, "Biden was the president last time. Do you believe that the election was fair?" Biden was the president the last time. So he wouldn't answer the question, just like J.D. Vance wouldn't answer that question on the debate, the TV debate. They could not and would not answer that question. In your opinion, was the election fixed or was it a fair election? And the only answer they have was Biden was the president the last time. Can we imply from that you believe that this was a fair election? Biden was the president last time. They won't say anything. Basically, that's all they'll say because they're afraid. They're afraid of having their own opinions. And if you're afraid of having your own opinions and you're a yes man and you'll do anything you're told to do, that's the problem Trump had the first time around. He had people that were staunch conservatives, Republicans, that would not do his bidding because they felt it illegal. Right now, he doesn't have that. He's got, I don't know, man. What does this sound like to you? He's surrounded by yes men doing exactly what he says, and he's and he doesn't smoke and drink, and he has Austrian heritage.
Yeah. Not going there.
I do not like the fact that he is surrounded by yes men. He has people with that, and anyone who has a different idea is quickly shown the door. So as illegal as these things he wants to do, if he brings in military force into Greenland, that's illegal. It's against international law. It's against NATO policy. It's against even the United States' ethics.
Yeah.
And yet he will have people just doing what they're told to do. Unfortunately, they'll look the other way, and that's what bothers me the most.
Yeah, and that's unfortunately we got too many people looking the other way.
Well, look, Trump is punishing us with 25% tariffs for a small amount of drugs that go across the border and a small amount of migrants that go across the border. And yet that same problem goes the other way. It doesn't make sense to punish us that way. But he's come clean and says he wants to annex Canada, and he's going to do that with economic pain. He's going to make it so painful economically for the average Canadian to exist, that they will have to
It does.
secede to the United States.
Yeah, but again, if we were to join the United States, it's not as one nation, as one state. It is as
well, that's irrelevant. Really, it is irrelevant, because all they want to do is take the land. They can then carve it up in any kind of state that they want. It's irrelevant, the fact that there would be more than one state. The relevancy of this is he wants to take Canada. He wants to take the country of Canada, and then they'll do what they want with it after that. They get it. Now, here's something interesting. The EU has floated an idea that Canada join the European Union.
It's an interesting idea. It's a very interesting idea. Also, the other thing is that I think that one thing that hasn't been discussed as yet is that why isn't Canada in trade talks with UK, Australia, New Zealand, other English-speaking lands, potentially the Commonwealth, so to speak, as well as the European Union?
We have been, actually. It took us a long time to get a trade agreement with Europe, basically because the Europeans were not going to sign any deal with Canada until they had sorted out their deal with the US. So Canada tried for 10 years, and the Europeans rejected us because they had to know what their big prize was, the US, and they had to know what the US was doing before that they could then cut a deal with us. So basically, we already have a trade deal with the EU. We already have trade deals with Australia and so on. But the fact of the matter, we're going to have to up that.
No,
we're not a member of the European Union.
We're not a member.
Even though we're not in Europe, the idea is floated that maybe this is a good way to diversify our income, is by getting in bed with the Europeans.
Yeah, which would also further protect Greenland in a way.
Yeah, that's part of the problem. As a matter of fact, that if any country should get Greenland, so to speak, it should be Canada. Now, because Canada has the same type of people in its northern areas that the Greenlanders want to communicate with.
Yeah,
Greenlanders are mostly Inuit, and they want to be in contact with their brethren, so to speak, in the islands and the northern reaches of Canada.
Yeah.
So I think if they're going to be an autonomous country, which I think they should be a country on their own, but I think probably Canada and Denmark should probably help supply them with enough wherewithal until they can get totally on their feet and become totally independent, and actually promote the interconnection between our Inuit peoples. That makes a whole lot of sense to them.
Yeah,
and because that's one of their desires, is to do that.
It makes a lot of sense to me as well.
Yeah,
it really does. Okay, all right. So where do we go from that? Okay, so Indigenous leaders. Niagara Regional Native Center president demands a consultation on encampments.
Basically, this is happy money to all, hugs and keep warm. Okay, it's flu season. Yeah, watch out there. There's some really deadly flu bugs out there. There's a friend of mine and his girlfriend got wiped out by this flu bug that's going out there. It's really, really bad. Whole families have succumbed to this thing. It's not COVID. It's dyed-in-the-wool flu, but it really is a bad bug. So if you feel like getting a flu shot, now is the time. And anyway, so the natives, talk about natives. The natives of our region are put out that they haven't been consulted when it comes to the encampment, and claim that 30% of the encampment denizens, those people that live in homeless encampments, are native. that is a possibility. I know that there is a native presence in the encampments more than in other neighborhoods, basically, but 30%, that's quite a bit.
I knew there was some. I didn't know it was that high, but yeah. And naturally, of course, why they want involvement in this question about what happens to the encampments. If he's talking about that being across Ontario, or is he talking about just the Niagara region?
Well, his area, of course, is right here
Yeah, of
in
course. Yeah.
in Niagara. So that's uh, that's what that's what he's worried about right here, and he
Yeah.
feels that the Niagara region should have come and consulted him because natives have certain. There's an agreement between the region and natives that anything as part of the reconciliation part of truth and reconciliation that the region consult the natives when it has anything to do with indigenous people. However, the the region balks at this because they have they say they can't go and talk to everybody about every little thing that the encampment removals and stuff like that have very little to do with native issues per se. It just has to do with ordinary common bylaws and laws and that kind of thing. So there's the dispute right there.
Yeah. Well, in the end of the day, the poorest sections of our community do involve native people.
Yeah. So he basically it says that uh, the 30% of St. Catharines homeless population are natives, which surprised me. I didn't think it was that much. I would have thought 10 to 20 maybe, but 30%.
That would have been my thinking, 10 to 20%. But yeah, interesting.
And he also points out the indigenous community signed in 2018 by the mayor, Walter Sednick, requires cooperation from the city to work with indigenous peoples as identified as truth and reconciliation. The point is, though, that they don't believe that this has anything to do with the truth and reconciliation. It has to do with a bunch of people, some of which are native, in encampments and how to clear them. And why would that be specifically a native thing? Why would it be part of the truth and reconciliation? And that's what they're saying. We want to clear out these encampments. We don't care really who's living in there. Why is it important that the natives be consulted in this particular case? Now, the argument back is, yeah, because they're natives, basically.
Mm. Well, yes, I understand that, but also, again, the question here is, I'm trying to, because I'm a person who's opposed to the use of the notwithstanding clause. I don't think we've explored anywhere near the right options to get this problem resolved. We've been doing some of the work, but probably not enough. But I'm also conscious of the fact that we have budgets and things like that we have to live by. But also, when it comes down to the encampments and clearing them out, I do ultimately see that probably there's going to end up being a solution, which is you're going to have some plots of land in each city that are going to have like toilet and washroom facilities and an encampment close by, right there. Right. That will be fenced off, etc., and left to those. The difference between use of notwithstanding clause and having this done through through other means is the end up with what force is used to get them there.
I think basically that right now we have the region has balked at the idea of the notwithstanding clause and has pretty much announced that it is going to support people's rights. However, I don't think this will last. If the homeless problem gets any much worse, then I know that the people are going to be much harsher disposed to the homeless
Yeah.
people. They
Oh, yeah.
already are.
They
They're
already are.
already considering them the wastrels and offscourings of society. They feel that they cannot be rehabilitated. More and more people think they cannot be rehabilitated. They don't want to be rehabilitated, want to be living as a parasite on society. That's the way the feelings are starting to go. I
Yeah.
mean, not many people feel that way, but more and more are.
That's true.
Right now, we've got past the notwithstanding clause thing, but how many times are we going to be able to say that? Pretty soon, if the matter gets worse, if we have more things like Summer Street and Buchanan Street that don't seem to be working very well, don't blend in with the neighborhoods very well, are in conflict with the neighborhoods, where police arrive all the time. It's all very nice and high sounding to say we are not going to remove their rights, but I'll say this time, because sooner or later, people, that's why it has to be solved, and that's why money and a plan has to be directed towards that. And you'll find that wording in today's agenda of the Niagara Falls City Council. There's some clear spelling out of from the region, a letter that was sent to the Niagara Falls to be read and received, pretty much explicitly saying we are not going to remove people's rights of Section 7 of the Constitution, but we are going to concentrate efforts and find a means in which to deal with this. Basically, what they haven't had is a full and thorough plan or the resources to take care of it.
Yeah.
And then people somehow think that they have had and failed, and that's why they want to go with the notwithstanding clause.
And that's why the this time business, right? Dave?
What?
That's why we're talking about this time. This
time.
It will happen in the future. Yeah.
Yeah. You got another election, some more people coming in, and they may be feel they're forced to deal with it in a manner that withholds the rights. However, there are other ways of doing that, and one of the biggest, I don't know, we have a fentanyl problem here in here, a meth problem, a cocaine problem, a heroin problem, all of these things we have here. Those are the areas that I think we should probably focus on a lot. That keeps people homeless and addicted, and those are the ones that are going to be committing the crimes.
Okay, so Karen asked a question. Does he say what solutions he has for his homeless people, i.e. the native homeless?
No, not at all. He just wants to be involved in the loop, and he feels that dealing with the homeless encampments has something specific to do with the natives. Although Cisco says that when he went to the native communities to talk with them, nobody ever said anything like that to him, that this is kind of new to him. So I don't know. The native communities throughout all of Ontario haven't had any better ideas about homeless and their own people that are in a bad way. Obviously, they haven't found the solution. They haven't found them sort of the best idea to deal for, because their communities are not doing that well in a lot of cases. We see what happens in Thunder Bay when they come off. The reserve in Thunder Bay is supposed to be one of the best in Canada, and yet they come out of the reserve in Thunder Bay and go into Thunder Bay and make a real mess of things. So how do you deal with this? I mean, the natives have been dealing with this for longer than we have and hadn't come up with any kind of solution. So it's going to be a difficult thing. And this particular guy trying to Vanderklees or whatever his name is there, he's I don't think he has any better idea than anyone else, but he felt that he was shut out of the loop.
Yeah,
But
and I get that. I
the
get
mayor
that.
says that this is just mundane day-to-day work, that you can't call him on every little issue.
Of course you can't, but yeah. But I also get both parts of the thing. You can't call on everybody every time. Yeah, and
Well, when this issue has never been brought forward
way,
to him before, and this suddenly is,
yeah.
when he's given every opportunity for that to be mentioned, and it never was, now suddenly it is.
Yeah.
So,
No, I get where Mayor Cisco is coming from. All right, we're going to have to end it at that point, I think.
okay. Without further ado, I bid you adieu, my fellow Americans.